This video is for students who are taking a trigonometry college class. This will help you to learn how to use both the scientific and the graphing calculators. So it depends which one you like to use. You can see both versions in the same video. So the first thing you start with is to be familiar with the keys here on the calculator. Which keys, what does each key work for? On the scientific calculator, we have the numbers that you can see here. Then we have exponential in the lowest left corner, logs 2 to the x. This is kind of like it gives you the option to any index you like the fourth root of x, 5 root, 6 root. But the common ones are used square root and cubic root. That's why they have keys here for them. We have the pi because you use a lot. 1 over x, absolute value of x, exponential function. C for clearing up. If you type something and you want to clear it, you click on it. And the other functions here: division, multiplication, subtraction, addition, and equal. Now, if you click second here, it gives you in the first column kind of like the opposite, almost the opposite of these x squared, x cubed, x to the y. If you click it again, see it gives you radicals. These are logs, log base 10 all the time. We don't need it here, but just so you see it. Also up there in the upper left corner, trig, that gives you the trig functions: sine, cosine, tan, secant, cosecant, cotan. Even the graphing calculator doesn't even have the secant, cosecant, cotan, so you need to know what each function is. Comparing to the secant, sine, cosine, tan, they are reciprocal functions. And then if you click second again here, that will give you the inverse, or we call them arc sine, arc cosine, arc tan, tangent, and so on and so forth. Those are sine inverse, cosine inverse. HYP, those are the hyperbolic. We don't need them here in the trig course, but we usually teach in calculus. We don't need them in here. So click second, and then if you click trig again, that will close that menu. Here we have some functions, probably we don't need them. The only thing possibly you might need, the first one is the absolute value, the second one is the floor function and the ceiling function. And in the middle here, that's degrees, minutes, seconds to convert, and it converts to degrees or radians stuff. In the upper left corner up there here in the middle, actually, we have RAD, that's radian, gradient, and degrees. We don't use gradients. We only use degrees and radians. So if you want to do find something in degrees, you make sure that's set to be degree. If you click again, that's radians. And then gradients, then degree. So these are the keys that we're going to be using in here. One thing to keep in mind: a lot of operations in scientific calculators are set kind of backwards of the graphing. The graphing on the graphing calculator, things are set kind of straightforward rather than comparing to the scientific calculator. So this is about scientific calculator. For the graphing calculator, of course, that's the on key in the lowest left corner. And then if you want to turn it off, you go second on, that will turn it off. So the second key, the blue one, that functions or operates all the keys with the blue thing. So each key on the calculator has 2 to 3 functionality, or 2 to 3 rules here, or operations. So if you if you want to use any of the blue keys, let's say I want to use L6, which is with letters number 6. So you click second 6. If I want to use the letter W, which is with the minus sign, you click alpha, which is in green, and then minus sign. And here what we have, as you can see, sine, cosine, tangent, we do need those the most. And we have on the first column on the left side, there's math, then x squared, or x to the negative 1, x squared, log, ln. We don't need them, ln or logs, natural log or logarithms. One thing important we need next to the second, on the right side of the blue key, there's a mode. That mode, if you click on it, on the third row, if you go down, that changes from radians. If you need radians, you make sure it's blinking on radians. If you want a degree, blink on degrees and hit the enter key. So that sets the calculator to degree. If you go back to radians, click enter. Enter means equal here. That sets it to radians. So make sure you know how to change the mode from degree to radians or radians to degrees. Let's start with some operations. Let's say I want to find the square root of 2. Just write a simple stuff like this. What is this gonna be? Well, on the calculator is a graphing calculator. I see the square root with the x squared. So I go second square root, and then you key that in. You actually can type it like this, and you see it. So if you hit the enter key, that gives 1.4. So 1.4142. That's the square root of 2. Now, how do I calculate it on the scientific calculator? You're not going to go straight into square roots of 2. What you need to do, you type the 2 first, and then you go second and the square root. That gives you the same answer. So first you key in the number 2 in scientific calculator, then go second square root, and then that will give us the 1.4142, exactly the same answer. What about if I want a more complicated one? Let's say 4 square root of 3 all over 3. So how do I get that out? What is this equal to? So I'm gonna do that first on the graphing calculator. You type 4 second square root of 3 and make sure you get out of it using the arrows and divide all of that by 3. And that gives us about 2.3094, 4 decimal places. Now I'm gonna clear CE for clearing, so it clears that. It keeps it on the right side for me here, but it clears it in the window for operations where it performs the calculations. So let's do this. How are we gonna do this? You can first find 3 square root. So go second square root. That's square root of 3. And then you multiply that by 4 and hit the equal sign. That gives me what goes on the top. If I divide that by 3, enter, that gives me exactly the same answer. So first in the scientific, you start with the radical sign and then multiply the answer by 4 and divide that by 3. Divide that by 3. What other algebraic stuff we need to do? Let's say I want to find 8 over the square root of 10. How am I going to find this on the calculator? Again, the graphic calculator, it's easy to use here. 8 divided by second square root of 10. And this gives us about 2.5298. Okay, so what about the other one? How are we going to calculate that? Let's try it. So maybe someone will go ahead and say, okay, 8 divided by, watch what's going to happen. 8 divided by, look what I'm going to do. 10, 10. So I'm going to do 8 divided by 10. And then we're going to go second square root. So you go second square root. So what this does, you see the answer I got here is 3.16 something. But the answer on the graphing is 2.52. How come they are different? Because this step here, this only gives me the square root of 10, which is about 3.16, makes sense. Then you have to hit the enter key or equals key again. So hit the equal key again. Then that will give us exactly what we need. So then that will give us about 2.5298. Do you see that? So first you do 8 divided by 10 square root. So that will give me square root of 10. Then you divide it, then you press the enter key again to give me the square root, the 8 over square root of 10. So that's an important step to know in scientific calculators. Now, what about if I want to work with sine, cosine, tangent, and so on and so forth? So let's clear that up there, and let me clear this up here. Let's say I want to find sine, so I want to find sine 30 degrees. So how do I find this out? On the graphing calculator, you just go sine 30 degrees. And now watch what's going to happen. This is supposed to give us 1/2. But let's see if this is really going to give me 1/2 or not. So I'm going to hit the enter key. Give me negative 0.988. So something wrong. Is the calculator wrong? Well, this is what happened. You need to make sure, as I said before, because I'm working with degrees, there's degrees here. You go to the mode and make sure the mode is degrees. Change it to degrees, and then second, quit, like second mode. That will get you to this. And we have a function here. It's good to learn. Do I have to type sine 30 again? No, there is a shortcut that copies, pastes that last operation you started with. So if you go second and enter, that's called entry. That will copy the last operation you typed in and paste it down. So when you hit the enter key now, that gives us 0.5. 0.5 is the same as 1/2. If you want to see this fraction wise, you can go click on math right below alpha, and then the first option, as you can see, says frac. That means fraction. So then you're gonna hit the enter key. So what the calculator is gonna do is gonna take the answer you got and convert it into a fraction. Hit the enter key and then enter again. So enter. So that will give us 1/2. Now let's do it on the scientific calculator. So how do you do that on the scientific calculator? You do 30 first, you do 30, and then you go trig sine. See, it gives me 1/2. So trig sine gives me 1/2. So that's an important thing to learn. What about sine negative 30 degrees? So I'm still in the degrees. So let's see what we do here. Sine, if you put the minus sign, the one on the first column on the right side, right above the plus, that's a minus, that's a subtraction, not negative. This is the negative, the one next to the decimal point in the last row. Negative 30 degrees. So I expect that to be negative 1/2. And that's what it is. Again, if you want to get it as a fraction, you go math, enter again. So that equals negative 1/2. As you can see. So the next one is how do I do it on the scientific calculator? So we do, watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna type, if you just type negative, okay, let me clear that up first. Negative 30 and hit the enter key. That gives you negative 30. Do you see it? You do negative 30 first, and then you go trig sine, and that gives us negative 1/2. Negative 1/2. What about if I want to get to calculate 149 minus 121 cosine 60 degrees? Well, I can do that all in one operation here. 149 minus 121 cosine 60 degrees and close the parentheses. That gives us exactly, that equals exactly 88.5. No degrees, just 88.5. Let's see what we do in here. If we try it in here, let's try 149 minus 121. Okay, and then what are you gonna do then? If I press enter, that's the wrong thing to do because order of operation doesn't allow us to do that. So then we need to think about how can we get this taken care of first. So how do I do this? If we want to find, we can find, let's say 121, or no, let's find 60 trig cosine. So I got cosine 60 is this, and times that by 121. Let's see what that gives us. It gives us, so you can write it down one step at a time. Cosine 60, this equals, keep 141 the same, minus, I performed an operation this, so write it down on the piece of paper as 60.5 because you might forget it. And then what you do, 149 minus 60, did I type 60? 60.5. And that will give us exactly the same answer as before. So that's the scientific notation, or sorry, scientific calculator. use. What about if I want to find a different one? Let's say I want to find sine 2 pi over 3. Sine 2 pi over 3. So that's in the radian mode. Radian mode. So on the calculator, on the graphing calculator, go to the mode, down to radians, quit this. And now I'm going to do sine 2. And the pi is in the right side. So you go second and with the one that on this, right above the division sign. And then this is divided by 3, close the parentheses, and that gives me about 0.8660. That's okay to write it this way. Not all the fractions, they will end up to be really nice. So if we try math, hit the enter key twice, see, it's not gonna, it's no fraction. This goes forever. So you can just keep it 0.8660. Now, if I do it on this calculator, let's see, what is the first thing we can do? 2 pi, this is 2 pi divided by 3. So that gives me the answer to the fraction. So if I do trig and sine, notice how I got a different answer. What went wrong here? Well, what went wrong is in here, the degree should be radians. Now you see rad means radians. If we try it again now, 2 pi divided by 3. And now I'm going to do trig sine of that. See, it gives me the same answer, 0.8660. So that's good to know. How about if I want to find secant 18? What is this? Well, we need to know, in the graphing calculator, we need to know that secant in general, because there's no secant key, is 1 over cosine. That is reciprocal of cosine. So if I want to apply it in the graphing calculator, first thing I'm going to go to the mode, make sure it's degrees. It's not here, so I have to change it. Quit. Now we do 1 divided by cosine 18. And that gives me 1.0515. 1.0515. If we do it on the scientific calculator, let's try it. So you do 18, and the good thing here, not all scientific calculators had that. If it doesn't have it, you can use the same function as the one on the graphing, the way I did on the graphing. But if it does, as I have it here, so then you just go straight to secant. And notice the answer is 1.5144. Again, it's not the same. Oh, let me check the mode. The mode is radian, gradient, degrees. So I need to make sure it's degrees. So again, we'll go 18, trig, secant, and now it matches. Now it matches. So that's important. What about if I got something more complicated? Let's say I want to find the value of x equals 32 tangent 38 degrees divided by tangent 54 degrees minus tangent 38 degrees. If you want to put it in the graphing calculator, all this can be put in one operation, so you don't have to write the answer and answer down. So let's see what we get. On the top, I'm gonna wrap that with the parentheses to put all the stuff in one parenthesis. So 32, I get tangent 38. Close the first and second parentheses. So that's the numerator. And it's degrees. I make sure the mode is in degrees. Now divided by. You must wrap this with a parentheses. So you start with a parentheses here. Otherwise the calculator will not understand that the whole quantity goes in the denominator. So parentheses, we have tangent 54 minus tangent 38, close. So the answer is about 42, oops, it's green, 42.0119, like that. It's almost 42, right? Let's try it on the scientific. So on the scientific calculator, how are we gonna do this on the scientific calculator? So this is what we write. we try to calculate the top one. So I do, I make sure it's degrees, okay? So clear this up, 38, and I'm gonna go 10. So that's the top times 32. That gives me the top answer, 25.0011. Now for the denominator, clear this again. I'm gonna go 54 second tangent. So that's 1.3764 minus, clear this again. I'm gonna go 38 second tangent, 0.7813. And now keep the top the same, 25.0011. For the denominator, I'm gonna do 1.3764 minus 0.7813. The denominator is 0.5951. So then let's see what we get for x. The last process is to divide them. 25.0011 divided by 0.5951. It's 42.0116. So compare the answers. This one with this one. Almost the same. Do you see it? Because we did approximation more in scientific than graphing. Both answers are fine. So if you are taking a test and you get either one, that should be fine. Other stuff. Let's say I want to find sine inverse of 1. What is sine inverse of 1? And I'm gonna try like a different one. So sine inverse of 1/5. What does that give us? Or even like sine inverse of -1/4. So let's see. Let's see what we get. So for the first one on the graphing calculator, so where the sine key in, I use second and sine inverse because that key works for sine and sine inverse at the same time. If you put the 1, now it depends what do you want this to be, radian or degrees. Usually go with degrees, so that gives me exactly 90 degrees. So if I want to try it here, let's clean that up. So I'm gonna do 1 first. You type the 1. Do you see what I meant by backwards at the beginning of the video? 1, and then you go second sine inverse, so it gives me 90. Let's try the 1/5. So you're welcome to pause the video and try it before I show you how to do it. So you go second sine inverse of 1 divided by 5. And that gives me about 11.5369 degrees. Okay? Now, if I tried on this one, you first do 1 divided by 5, hit the enter key, that's 0.2. Then you go trig second sine inverse. So it gives me the same answer. What about this one? Again, second sine inverse. Second sine inverse. Negative, that's the negative in the last row. 1 divided by 4. Close the parentheses. That's about negative 14.4775 degrees. Can the answer be negative? Yes, it's okay. Clear this up. I have negative 1 divided by 4. That's negative 0.25. Sine inverse, trig second sine inverse, negative 14.47. That's exactly what we need. That's exactly what we need. If you happen that you need to calculate, let's say, I want to find 2 to the 3rd power. So on the scientific calculator, graphing calculator, you do 2 and there's a key, this, which is right below or above, right above the division sign. Right above the division sign. So put 2 that sign 3. So 2 that sign 3. And that will give me 8. Now when I did it here on the TI-84 Plus, it gives me a small box where I could key in the 3. And on other calculators it doesn't. It just keeps that sign, but it will give you exactly 8. For this one, we can do, there's a shortcut here, 2 and the x cube, if you see it. That will give you 8 right away, x cube. What about if I want to calculate something? So these are the exponents. Tan inverse, we did sine, cosine, tan inverse. We did lots of operations. Let's see, sometimes you will ask me, what is this x to the y? So x to the y. Well, let's try something. Let's see if we put 2 and then x to the y and put a 3 and hit the enter key. Ta-da, it gives me 8. So this also works for exponents. And why does that, why do we have this if I already have x cubed? Well, because what about if they give you 2 to the 4th? We know that's 16, but if you're gonna put it in the scientific calculator, clear this up, you're gonna put 2 and then use x to the y. So x to the y means, so x to the y is the same as this on the graphing calculator. And then put the 4 and then hit the enter key. That gives us 16. That's what that key is for. If you are able to do these calculations on the scientific calculator, then you are fine for this. Now for graphing, let me just show one graphing thing. Let's say I want to graph y equals sine x. Sine x. Okay, so on the upper left corner there's y equals. You see y equals. And then you put sine, and 2 steps above that there's x. There's x. If you graph it, we know this is a wavy function, so it's gonna go like this. But notice what's gonna happen when I graph it. On the right hand side, in the first row right hand side, there's a graph key. If you graph it, you see, what do you see here? Nothing almost. So you need to make sure to go to the mode and make sure the mode is radians when it comes to graphing. And then I'm gonna go to the y equals something and then graph it. That will give me the wavy function. And then you can play around with whatever you want here. So let's say I want to graph 3 cosine 2x, let's say. It doesn't have to be just standard. So do you see how the what we call the amplitude is 3 and the period is smaller? So if you want to graph different one, let's say I want to graph a -5 sine x over 2, so x divided by 2. Close it and then graph it. See? So we graphed y equals 3 cosine 2x. We graphed y equals -5 sine x over 2. The period is 4 pi, like it's really big. And then it was a reflection, and the amplitude is 5. So that's I think that's all you need to know here. One thing good to review, just that specifically about the graph. If you want, there's a key here in the middle, upper in the row, in the middle almost, or the next to y equals. That's called the window. See, the window, standard window always goes, the x is from -10 to 10, and y from -10 to 10, and the scale, it says x scale 1, means each unit is 1, means like this. So when you go 1, 2, 3, means each one of this is 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit. So it goes up to 10, and here 10, -10, and -10. That's the standard window. Standard window. You can change it. Let's say I want to change this to -3 to something. So you can put -3 there. Or negative, let's see if we put pi. -pi. Or let's say I want to put -2 pi. Second pi. So if you want to graph a function over -2 pi to 2 pi, let's say, you can do that, 2 second pi. So That's on the x-axis. Okay, on the x-axis. So let's hit the, let's say I want to let's say I want to put let me see, let me say I want to graph it like this. See, so it only graphs it from negative 2 pi to 2 pi. Negative 2 pi to 2 pi. That's all it gives us. So usually we don't change in the y values, but you can if you want. If you want to graph it, usually I graph from 0 to 2 pi. You go to the window and change from 0 to 2 pi. That's good information about using both the scientific and the graphing calculators to perform some operations on trigonometric functions for a college trig course.